Today, I'm going to give you a tool to become a better grower. I'll walk you through it, and best of all, I'm giving it to you for free. Hi, I'm Chad Westport. I've been involved with cannabis for over 30 years. I'm a graduate of SVC and WSU, where I studied sustainable agriculture and small farm systems. Commercially, I've worked at the largest indoor facility in our state, and I've consulted with our legislatures on the medicinal cannabis program. My background and training give me the experience to easily guide new growers through the home cannabis growing process. It's easier than you think and far more rewarding than unloved, mass-produced, chemically treated commercial cannabis. Enter the woo. Westport University. When it comes to growing cannabis, there's a free tool that can make all the difference between a mediocre harvest and a truly epic one. It's a grow journal. And whether you're a seasoned grower or just starting out, keeping track of your plant's progress can be a game changer. And trust me, all of the professional growers keep proper data on their grows, all the way down to strain specifics. But before I walk you through each of these beneficial tools, I want to explain to you why these are important and how they can help anybody out there, whether you grow, breed, or simply consume cannabis. One of the biggest challenges growers face is accurately tracking the growth of their plants. Now, you might think you could remember everything, but trust me, it's easy to forget and you almost always will. Did I give my plants nitrogen boost last week, or was that the week before? When did I water them last? Avoid these questions. A grow journal can help you keep all of this information in one place so that you can look back and see what worked and maybe what didn't work. Keeping a grow journal is all about being proactive, not reactive. It's about being able to look back and say, I see what went wrong last time. Let me try this instead. So it's about refining your techniques, spotting patterns, experimenting with new methods, and optimizing your grow for maximum results. By keeping a grow journal, you can identify patterns and trends in your plant's growth and make data-driven decisions to improve your next harvest. You'll be able to anticipate potential problems before they arise and make adjustments on the fly based on experience. And let's not forget about that sense of accomplishment you'll get from looking back on a successful harvest and knowing exactly what you did to make that happen. All right, so as you can see, I've got two different forms. I've got one for the vegetative cycle and I've got one for the flowering cycle. And each of those are two separate pages. But let's go over these, starting with our vegetative grow cycle, page 1. Along the top there, on the left-hand side, under the Westport University logo, we have cultivar. Of course you're going to want to write the strain name down. It helps you keep track. Start date, I usually say that is the date when it pops above the soil or above your medium if you're using rock wool or something else. So that is my start date that I put down there. And also you can move to the right and see soil, cocoa, or DWC. You're going to have different parameters to follow based on the growth medium that you choose. Soil and cocoa are fairly similar, but they do have important differences. And that's typically what growers go between. Maybe they'll do soil run here, maybe they'll try cocoa, but it's important to mark that difference so you're looking at the right information based off what you're growing in. And then DWC, as we all know, it's a beast of its own, so it's important to track that separately. Week of your current grow, that's important to know because it's going to help you look back and say, okay, I was watering this much in week 1 compared to this much in week 3 or week 4, because it's going to change as that root system develops. Important to know, easy to look back on it. And then we get to the grid here. Obviously, you've got the 7 days of the week there, so each page will cover a full week. And there's a couple things at the top that aren't really going to change every day. So you can maybe just write it down on Monday and then draw a line across. light schedule being one of them. Now, it's important to know what kind of light schedule you're using, and maybe you want to experiment. So let's say somebody's doing 20 hours on and 4 hours off, and then they want to try 18 hours on and 6 hours off. They'll be able to track the differences and make an educated decision on which one worked best for them. So that's why I've got light schedule in there. It's an important thing to know. Container size, again, that's not going to change frequently, but it is good to know what size you're using when you transplanted. And, maybe you'll look back and be like, ooh, I should have transplanted sooner. I had better results. Or, anything. That's what the data is for. Going down, exhaust fan speed. Now, this seems like a weird one maybe, but it's important because it will help regulate temperature and humidity. And let's say somebody gets maybe a PM problem later in the grow. They can check what their circulation was like. You'll also see this fluctuate throughout different times of the year. And that's, again, something that you'll be able to see visually through the numbers. Light is next. Now, there's a couple different ways to measure it. Distance and percentage on the knob of your light, that's something we all have access to. We could all measure from the bottom of the light to the top of the canopy, and we can visually see, oh, it's on 40%. Use that. If you have the ability to measure the PPFD and also the DLI, even better. This would be the place for you to put it. But we all have access to distance and percentage. So that's probably what most of you will track it by. Temperature, high and low for the day. That's always important to know. Typically look, around the same time each day is kind of an important. And the same with humidity. You want to track the high and the low. A lot of us have devices and screens that will tell us. So just record that information here and you can see how things fluctuate and maybe how that affects your fan speed. Okay, watered, yes or no? Now, if you answer the rest of the questions, you could probably assume that you watered, so you don't necessarily have to write no in every box. You can just make a check. But the important things to measure are, of course, when you watered, how much you're watering. I usually use measuring cups. They come in milliliters, so you can track it by milliliter, or if you have huge pots, you can track it by quarts, pints, gallons, whatever you need to do there. pH of the water right before it goes into the containers. Always a good thing to have, more important for cocoa than it would be for like an organic living soil. But again, still important. So you want to track that. And temperature of the water, that is important for all of them, more specifically to the DWC grower. But water temperature makes an effect or a difference on dissolved oxygen. I can turn that into another episode. I'll stop. And then nutrients. Yes, I fed them, or no, I didn't. Because sometimes you will just give plain water without nutrients. So this is a way for you to keep track of those. You got your final ppm, parts per million, or EC, which is electrical conductivity. You can measure both, or you can measure either or. They kind of give you a similar picture for what you need to know. And then the source. So if I'm using XYZ Trio, write that down. I added 5 milliliters per gallon. That's the amount. You can write that information down there. So that is page 1 of your vegetative grow journal. Page 2 is a little bit more of observations. Now, the first thing we have on here, and again, we got the cultivar, we got the start date along the top. I did add expected harvest date, just something to keep in mind so you can plan your next grow. You kind of can look at this at a glance and be like, oh yeah, this isn't done for another, 90 days. Whatever you plan to do, just add your anticipated harvest date at top. And then again, week of the current grow. But we drop down to the grid. And we've got leaf position, and this will tell you a lot about a plant, but we can't see inside the plant. We can just observe what the leaves are doing. So there's 4 options here. There's praying leaves, which, your leaves are up like this praying. And you've got neutral, where, they're just kind of like hanging out. They're doing good. And then you got drooping, where, maybe it's a little hot. Maybe I'm underwatered, overwatered, but I'm still okay. And then you have sagging, which is oh my gosh, something is going wrong. It needs water or it has too much. But those are good things to track, because if you ever get to that drooping phase, and then you can look down and say, oh, I added X amount of water, and then the next day my leaves were back to normal, and then they were back to praying. So you could kind of track how you recover your plant, and that will help you in the future make better decisions. Next, leaf color. And new growth and old growth are important to look at because of mobile and immobile nutrients. That's another conversation. But track the color of the new growth and the old growth separately. And to the left-hand side, I've given you some suggestions here. We've got dark green, emerald green, bright green, yellow, and then brown spots. So those are all important to notice and to make note of. Let's say you have some yellow plants and then you added X amount of nutrients, as you can see on your sheet, and then holy cow, 3 days later it's starting to green back up. You know how to fix that problem. And you can prove it because you've got it written down. So again, so many benefits to these as a grow tool. All right, underneath we've got height, from the soil to the top. I also put nodes just because I'm interested in the internodal spacing. I could have two plants, they're 24 inches each. One may have 10 nodes, the other may have 24. For me, worth knowing. And again, that associates back with the strain or the cultivar name to give you more information in case you were going to grow it again. Defoliation, I've just put light or heavy, and that's not going to be every day. So if you do it on a day, maybe let's say you pluck like 10 leaves off, probably a light defoliation. But if you're going in and you're, getting ready for like flipping to flower and you take off a whole bunch of leaves, then just put heavy. That'll help you know how much it needs to be defoliated and if the recovery time you gave it was enough based off of future results. Plant training and style. There's topping, there's LST, which is just kind of bending the branches down. Super cropping, which is where you're kind of breaking the stems a little bit on the inside. They get floppy, but they come back stronger. And then lollipopping, where you clean up the lower branches. And again, I'll cover all these terms in a future Westport University video, but it's good to note when you did them. At what day, at what time, how far away from flower. So again, another important thing to track to make you a better grower. And then finally, IPM application and type. So if you sprayed on a particular spray, write the name of the application, write what it was for, and then write spray. Or if you're using beneficial insects, you can just write release sachet of, California Swirsky. And then I do have a special note too. Again, at the bottom, it says record the leaf position at the same time each day. Ideally, at least 1 hour after the lights are on and at least 1 hour before the lights are off. Again, it's going to give you insight into the cycle water pressure inside of the plant, how it's taking it up and distributing it. If you're looking at different times of the day, there might be other factors that influence that position. So always look at it at the same time of the day. And that is our Cannabis Grow Journal vegetative stage. And real quickly, going over the flowering stage, you will see that this looks very similar to the vegetative stage. On this first page, you got the cultivar. We changed the next one, flip date, the day you change the lights to 12/12. Always good to know that because that will help you know how many days it took to flower. And then we got your medium and the week of flowering as well. 7 days of the week. Nothing has changed from the vegetative page here. It's all important. It's all relative. So you guys will know how to fill out this first page. And then the second page, just a little bit different. It does have along the top, cultivar date, start date, expected harvest date, and the week of the current grow. But it has leaf position at top. And again, remember to record the leaf position at the same time each day, ideally at least 1 hour after lights are on and at least 1 hour before the lights are off. We also have leaf color, which is important because during the flowering phase, it's using different nutrients in different quantities. So keep that in mind because deficiencies are usually represented in leaf color, which will help you adjust your feed later. So height, important again. Defoliation, just yes or no. I often defoliate a couple times in flower. It's important to know when you do that, so mark that down. Here's something different. Now, stigma color by percentage. Stigmas are those little hairs that come out of the bracts on the buds, and they're all going to be white for the majority of the grow. But as it's getting closer to harvest time, they're gonna start changing. And it's good to track the percentage of them, not necessarily because it is the factor to identify when to harvest, but because it is a clue of when to start looking at the more important factors of when to harvest. So keep track of that percentage. And right below that is really the important factor for when to harvest, the trichome head color. Now, jeweler's loops work great, nice cameras work great. If you don't have those, most cell phone cameras, you can take a picture of the buds. Again, it's important to look at the trichome heads on the buds and not the leaves, because the leaves will mature, or the trichomes on the leaves will mature faster than the trichomes on the buds, so make sure it's the buds. But if you take a picture with your camera phone of the trichome heads, you can usually zoom in good enough to get an idea of the color of those heads. So you're going to track the percentage of clear, milky, and amber. We'll go into when to harvest in a different Westport University video, but those are important things to track. And if you have a question, just let me know in the comments. Bud size and shape. It's important to know that too. That can maybe, if you have super big fat colas, maybe you want to bump up that exhaust fan. Or if you have, little golf balls that stretch a whole bunch, maybe you need to do different training next time. So bud size and shape, it's important to know. And then detectable odor. That's always important to track. And that's usually at some point throughout your flowering period. So if it's week 4 and you walk into the grow room and all of a sudden you're like, whoa, that stuff's good, write that down, because in the future, if you're just coming into harvest or into flowering and your air purifier maybe have 30 days, 40, 50 days left on it, you'll want to replace that before you get started, because this strain really smells, and it really smells at week 4. So good to know. And that is the Cannabis Grow Journal. So there you have it. Remember, all of these checklists are available for free by clicking the link down in the show description. These are lists that you can add to. By no means are they exhaustive, but they are enough to get you good results and to start you thinking about what the important factors are that you care most about. ChadWestport.com is where you can go to find my genetics and merch. Thank you for watching here on the Chad Westport YouTube channel. Please hit the subscribe button if you aren't yet subscribed. There's new Westport University videos coming out every week. So thank you for watching today. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. And remember, everybody, to party on.